Okay, so the first thing that we'll work on after you've warmed up for treating a UCL sprain is to start with grip. So you want to hold the TheraBand grip tool in one hand with your forearm and elbow resting on the table and your palm facing the ceiling. So you want to place your fingers on that involved hand in holes as far out as you can reach and then insert your fingers just past your fingertips. So moving slowly and controlled, you want to bring all your fingers to the center in a pinching motion. You want to hesitate here for about a second and then spread your fingers back out. You'll repeat this 8 times and you'll do 2 sets. And then to progress, we'll do increasing resistance with the color of the TheraBand. So some things you want to avoid when you're using the grip tool is not putting your fingers spread out far enough to where it decreases the resistance when you're trying to move your fingers in and out. Also, you want to make sure that you have your palm facing toward the ceiling so that you're holding the grip tool instead of resting it in a more gravity-dependent position. So the next exercise is going to be wrist flexion and extension. With your elbow and forearm resting on the table and your hand extended off the edge, you're going to turn your wrist so that the palm of your hand is facing the floor. You're going to grip the weight or make a fist and pull the back side of your hand back towards your body. You'll repeat this for 2 sets of 8 with your palm facing the floor, and then flip your wrist over so that your palm is facing the ceiling, and then pull the palm of your hand back towards your body. Some things you want to avoid when you do this exercise are moving too quickly so that it's not a slow and controlled motion, and raising your arm up off the table. You want to make sure that you stabilize your elbow and your forearm while you do this. So the next exercise is going to be pronation and supination with a wand. So sitting with your forearm and elbow resting on the table, your hand extended off the edge and your thumb pointed toward the ceiling, grip the wand about 1.5 inches below the weighted end. Moving slowly, it should take you a couple seconds to go from one side to the other. Twist your forearm and wrist so that the wand is pointing as much toward the wall as possible on each side. So when you do this, you want to make sure that you're moving slowly and controlled and you're not just letting gravity throw the weight from one side to the other. And you don't want to raise your forearm up off the table so that you're using your elbow to get the weight farther. You want to be only moving at your wrist and forearm. Next is going to be nerve glides. So to do this correctly, you're going to want to stand with good posture, looking straight ahead, and begin by holding your arm up, pretending to hold a tray about ear level with your elbow pointing forward. Keeping your elbow still, move your hand away from your body in a circular motion so that it moves to chest level in front of the body. Drop your hand below your elbow and move around in a circle at waist level until your fingers are behind your torso and pointed away from the body. Then you're going to move back up moving in the same pattern in reverse. So when you do this, you want to make sure that you're standing with good posture and facing forward. You also want to make sure to practice this motion so that when you perform it, you can do it correctly. One thing that may help in completing this motion correctly is to sit something like a Gatorade lid or a water bottle lid or a deck of cards in the palm of your hand. While you do the movement, you want to make sure that you keep that resting in the palm of your hand and don't drop it at any point during the motion. So moving a little farther up the kinetic chain, we're going to do a shoulder exercise. So standing arm length from the wall, standing with good posture, you're going to hold a ball at shoulder level with your elbow fully extended. You're going to move the ball against the wall, writing each letter of the alphabet. You're going to begin with only uppercase straight letters, and then you'll progress to adding more letters of the alphabet and doing lowercase later in the rehab. So some things you'll want to avoid when you do this exercise is standing with poor posture, not facing the wall, and bending at your elbow. You also want to make sure that when you're doing this, that you're focusing on the edges of the letters to make sure that you spell it out completely and complete each movement. So the last exercise that we'll do is resisted elbow flexion and extension. What you'll start by doing is isometric elbow flexion and extension, and you'll progress to moving through the whole movement. So to do this exercise, you'll be seated at the edge of the table, sitting with good posture with your shoulders back, sitting as tall as you can. Place your elbow crease at the edge of the table. You want to have your elbow bent at about a 90-degree angle. You'll press your forearm up into the table, hold 3 seconds, then relax. You'll repeat this for 2 sets of 8 repetitions. Then, seated in the same position, you're going to move your forearm to resting on top of the table. Pushing down into the table, still holding 3 seconds, you'll repeat this exercise for 2 sets of 8. So some things you want to avoid when you do these exercises, specifically looking at elbow extension, is you want to make sure that while you're doing this, you're keeping your forearm and elbow resting on the table, and that you stay seated with good posture and you're not leaning over your arm, trying to put your body weight into it to add more force pushing down. You also want to make sure that you remain seated while you're doing the elbow flexion exercises and that you're not trying to lift up into the table using your whole body, but instead focusing on using just the muscles of your arm when you do these exercises.